Hi and welcome to another Lewis Art vlog. Now today I've got a pretty simple task to do using my A-frame that I've just built. I'm going to audit my spray paint so that I'm ready to order any extra as I move into the painting stage. So very exciting. I'd love to get the spray cans out. I will be wearing a face mask as I always do when I spray. I might have a few problems with nozzles and things, but I guess we'll find out as we go. So yeah, let's get to it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a quick squirt from each can so that I've got a record of the colour, and then beside it I'm going to write the amount of paint in the can, pretty much in thirds. So a whole can, 2/3 or 1/3. And then what I'm going to do is just spray them through, go through each can, see how much paint is in the can. Then I can work out how much paint I have, how much paint I need to order before I get onto the main canvases. So here we go. So that's all my spray cans tested. I have a range. I'm going to let that dry, head into the studio, and we'll talk about what I'm thinking. So now I've gone through all my cans. I've got this range of colours, and I can sort of look at what I need and what I don't need. I've made notes up and around different bits and pieces, and a few things came out, stood out for me as well about using that space. So I made notes about them as well. So first things first. I'm lacking blues. I'm going to run out of blues very quickly, in particular ultramarine and these kind of sky blues that I use. I've got a small amount in each can, probably enough for one canvas, but then after that I'm going to be out. So, sorry, so for normal daylight, so for normal sky blue, midday blue, I'm going to need some more of that for sure. Anything where I do evenings or night, I'm going to need more ultramarine. And evenings, I'm going to be looking at using orange and the yellow with a little bit of blue. So again, I'm going to need some more. In terms of yellow, I've got plenty of that. And in terms of orange, I think I can probably scrape out a bit, but I might get another can in. So that's pretty good. That's all very positive. I'm thinking about my night shots, my night picture. So I want to do one picture in particular that's going to have a bit outhouse building in it, and I'm thinking about the colours that I'm going to be using within that. So it's a sort of nighttime, full moon, So there's going to be this sort of greenish blue going on, and I think what I can do, my thinking behind that is that I can use the colours that I use for the ocean on the buildings, and then bring in a darker blue out at the ocean. It'll all make sense in another video. So I'm thinking about this type of paint here, the ocean colour paint. I seem to only have really one or two slight different tones of that. I usually work off of two. So I'm going to need to order in some more of that. So there's lots of things going on here. Some of these greens, when I use covers, all the greens are quite bright. And this is what you're kind of seeing here. Interestingly enough, some of the older paints that I use, things like Dope, sometimes they kicked off with a slightly nicer green. That's a nice green up there, and this one here even. So a few differences in there. I think I'm gonna have to think about that, whether I stick with covers all or whether I switch to an alternative spray. And then, so pretty much I've got whites going on, different cream whites that I can use in the sky, some different browns and things. Not a lot of brown actually. I might need to get a little bit more. Gold's there. I use gold for that sort of, sometimes for that evening glow sort of thing. So that's quite important. I might need to get some more of that. In terms of things like grey, I'm a little bit short with that sort of thing. So overall, I've got enough to probably make one or two canvases here that I could scrape out. But if I want to go further than that, and I do because I want to make 8 canvases, I'm going to need to order in probably just the range again to top it up. But it's good to know what I've already got to use, and I'll try and finish these cans off and then move on to new cans. That brings up quite an interesting point, because when I'm using old cans, sometimes they don't particularly work that well and they spatter or they're quite heavy. And one of the things I noticed yesterday straight away, and it was you sort of get into the habit of thinking about these things, and then of course you stop, which I have done, and then suddenly you have to kind of remind yourself of all this stuff again. The temperature of the cans is actually really important. If the cans are cold, the paint is doesn't come out very consistently. So I need to make sure that the cans are indoors overnight for sure, and then take them out when I'm using them, and not to leave them out for too long, because they get cold again, and that impacts on the spray of the paint. So that's one thing. Nozzles as well, the spray nozzles, obviously making sure I've got clean nozzles so that it's a consistent flow is quite important as well. So those things were quite useful to do again, look at yesterday and remind myself of those sorts of problems. So that's quite important. Now there's a few patches, obviously those that didn't have a good enough shake up and needed more to come out, and those that have kind of gone a bit heavy and a bit blotchy, although it's quite nice to have texture on there. Whoa! Although it's quite nice to have texture on there, it doesn't always sit particularly well, and I'm a bit fearful that it'll flake and come off if I don't have a consistent flow with it. So I need to make sure that I get back into the habit of just firing off a bit onto a bit of card first and then going on to the canvas. These sorts of things happen quite naturally when you get into it, but to start with, when you're doing it, and you haven't sort of gone through the process a few times, these are old habits. And with me, if I don't use it, I lose it, definitely in terms of things, memories, and the way that I think about things, definitely in terms of technique. So that's all quite important. So I've learned quite a lot. The other thing that I noticed, I put a couple of things down there. So cans cold, that was one of them. And the other thing was where I'm positioned around the side of the house, sometimes the wind blows around and it kicks the spray across. That's very different to when you're in an indoor space. What I've got is shelter above me. What I don't have is shelter either side of me. So when the wind blows, it's going to blow across the canvas. That'll add to the canvas at certain times, but at other times I won't want that. So I've got to be a little bit careful how I do that. It may be that I get a large piece of card down one side of the canvas when I'm spraying, so that I've got a wind break there. That might be quite a good way of doing it. So there's plenty of things I've got to think about. And all that has come off of just testing these cans thinking these things through. So next step is to just go back in again, start thinking individually about each composition for the 8 canvases that I'm going to build, and then from there get out there and spray. So that's exciting. Yeah, probably one more thing just to mention is I've looked at a couple of places where the colours have crossed and combined just to see what they look, and it's quite interesting to see what they look like. That's quite cool, that's quite good the way that that's worked out. The other thing is I've looked at these pinks, that's a nice colour, but these two here I think they're quite strong colours, and one of the things that I've debated doing, and I may do it, I may not on this 8, but I may on the next batch, is mute the colours slightly. I like the strong colours, but sometimes I wonder whether a muted palette of greens and blues would be slightly nicer. So that may not be this time round because I've got this mixture still, but I think the time after I may experiment with that a little bit more. So all that's come off of this bit of card basically. That's pretty good to know to start with, and it means that I can sort of crack on to the next stage now, so that's really good news. Feel free to like and subscribe and comment below if you've got any tips or pointers you'd like to give me, or any questions for that matter. That'd be really great, and I'll try to reply to everyone who comments. That'd be brilliant. Thanks for watching.